Thanks for choosing to listen to this Late Night Linux Family podcast. We're only able to do this because of the people who support us. None of our shows are paywalled, but our Patreon supporters can get most episodes early and never hear any ads. Learn more at latenightlinux.com/support or support us by telling a friend or colleague about everything we do. Hello and welcome to episode 125 of Linux After Dark. I'm Joe.
I'm Chris.
I'm Gary.
And I'm May.
Welcome back all. Chris, we talked about you getting a Mac for work recently. Well, thankfully, you've got rid of that and you're going back to a Linux machine.
I am. Find me at a conference for the full story. I'm not going to go into it here. So I will be going back to an environment where I get a spanking new Dell Latitude and I'm allowed to install Linux. So I don't know what to do. I genuinely do not have a predefined strategy. Do I just stick to what I know? Debian Xfce. I'm going to have to run a backported kernel, backported firmware. The camera probably won't work. I gave the last laptop I had to a colleague and he said the webcam doesn't work on Debian with backports and everything still. We found a blog article that says Ubuntu a little bit it works. Fedora it does work. Do I break the habit of a lifetime and just go to Fedora?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, well, we better get out of here then.
So I did try Plasma on Debian Stable, which was a huge mistake. And I think recently Nate published a blog post and he said, for people that are coming new to Plasma, you either run Kubuntu or Fedora KDE is his recommendation. Not even KDE Linux because it's too alpha and everything else.
And definitely not Neon because, well, we don't talk about that.
Well, indeed. So I am still quite tempted by Kinoite because I played about with Boot C and I really like it. But am I making my life too complicated? Should I just install Workstation? I don't know, to be honest. I feel like cobbling together a backported stack is a pain. So I should run Fedora, right?
I think cobbling together something that's backported, you're going to end up having something break at some point, and you don't really gain too much from it. So, yes, you should probably run something that supports the hardware out of the box. For me, that's just been Fedora Workstation, mainly because I don't want to mess with all of the Boot C stuff. But I don't know, you like to mess with computers, right? I don't do that anymore.
The reason why I'm leaning towards it is because I'm still working in HPC, and as you get to RHEL 10, RHEL is leaning into Boot C and fleet management. Phelan mentioned it. I've not watched the video from the Ubuntu Summit, but there was a talk evidently there. The idea of seeding container images that you put out to a fleet of machines is appealing and coming in a work context. So I kind of do like that. The weird thing I find about Workstation, I installed it in a VM, ButterFS by default, but absolutely no automatic snapshotting, which is now apparently coming in Fedora 45 in the way that, we looked at SUSE a few episodes ago. That has Snapper, which will take a ButterFS snapshot automatically for package transactions. And it did clog up the boot menu when you first turn on the machine. But I've read Fedora has quite extensive what we're going to do. And the two things that are on the roadmap that stick out are A, Fedora 45 will have automated snapshots for system transactions. And B, in 2028, they want to try and make the Atomic desktop the default desktop. So I think I probably will go with Workstation because if I break it, I can fix it. It's fine. And I want to have the flexibility, I guess, because otherwise I have to layer libvirt or run my own Boot C pipelines, etc., etc. But it leads me on to, what do I do for my family because they're running Ubuntu Mate, and should I also put them onto Fedora?
I'm battling with this issue at the moment. My mum is currently running Ubuntu. My dad wants me to get him a Linux machine to replace his 12-year-old MacBook. And I don't feel like I can, in good conscience, install Ubuntu on it, mainly because that's a path I'm diverging from, and I don't want to support it. My mum is still on 2204, with Ubuntu Pro enabled. So I'm going to run out of road there at some point, not necessarily because the support ends, but because something will inevitably break. So do I put them on Fedora? But that seems a bit too bleeding edge, and I don't want to have to upgrade them every year, or do I do something else? It's a really difficult thing, right? Because I'm not at my family's machines every day.
This is the problem, you see. I think the update cycle is too frequent, and I'm leaning more towards Linux Mint Debian Edition, perhaps.
Well, I've been running that on a ThinkPad, and it is fine.
Right. Because I'm not going to put them on Debian Xfce. I'm probably not going to task sell them to Ubuntu. I live booted LMDE on a laptop with 16 gigs of RAM the other day. And interestingly, if you do a full upgrade from apt and then you do Alt F2 and type R and press enter, it reloads Cinnamon. So, because the image you download for LMDE is quite old, it changes quite a lot. So the menu, what's it called in Cinnamon?
I don't know, Cinnamon menu or something?
Yeah, the whisker menu type layout. As you boot the live boot, which is quite an old image now, if you then fully update and then reload Cinnamon, it changes into something more like the whisker menu, because LMDE is Debian stable, but with a rolling desktop environment that is, if you install Cinnamon from Debian, it's fixed. But if you install LMDE, you get a rolling DE. So it's kind of like KDE Neon, basically, in the model. And I just think that is going to be less headache than Fedora, perhaps.
Well, and that's ultimately what I want for my family's machines, right? Is that rolling user space with something that's rock solid underneath. So maybe LMDE is worth considering. It's just Debian stable gets pretty old towards the end of that release cycle.
Why is Linux Mint itself not an option?
Because Linux Mint Debian Edition, right? It's great. It's fine. I've had no problems with it. But it is not the Mint team's priority. It's the backup plan. The priority is the main edition. And yes, it might be based on Ubuntu and you might have issues with that, but it's Ubuntu cleaned up, isn't it? They take all the snap stuff out. They add some of their own magic dust on top of it, for want of a better word. Why not just Mint? I'm with May on this.
I don't want to be downstream of a downstream. And if I have a Debian base, then I can disable the LMDE repos when I get their machine and switch. So the lowest friction version of all these machines I've got running Ubuntu Mate, and I should just say that, just as we went to record, there is a piece of news that Ubuntu Mate has not withered on the vine, but they've skipped an LTS, and I'm looking elsewhere. That's just what I'm doing.
Yeah, and to be clear, they've not skipped the LTS in the way that some flavors have done before, which is we will put out a 2404 or a 2604, but you will not get the full support length. They just didn't do an image.
No, if you go to the website, it's still 2510 or 2404, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So the lowest friction version of this is that I literally just task sell to Ubuntu Core or Ubuntu Desktop, or pick another desktop environment, and I can be with these machines long enough to iron out it's not the best thing to do. This is why I do kind of like Fedora Atomic, because you can do that rug pull and switch and you have to clean up the dot files, but it's less messy than doing this. But I don't have an answer for you. Usually I come and I fire off a monologue of pre-decided decisions. This time I do not know.
I mean, the fact that you're willing to task sell a different desktop environment onto a family member's machine is wild to me. I don't want any risk that that's going to break and I'm going to have to touch it again in the next 2 years.
Well, I have done it. I mean, the machine I ran for work, I initially installed Debian with Plasma, and I ripped out Plasma and replaced it with Xfce, and I tidied it up and never had a problem again. But it is silly. That's why the Atomic model works for me. Obviously, you have to clean up dot files between GTK and Qt and everything, but being able to pull out that root file system image and replace it and roll back, it does still appeal to me. So there's a little part of me that thinks, especially because of the knock-on effect for work, for me personally, I might do it, but the update cycle is just too much. Some of the machines are in different countries, so I don't want to be troubleshooting that. So maybe you're right. I'm just going to have to suck it up, back up the user files and do a fresh install, probably of LMDE, I think. All the machines are old. This is the thing. Like my work machine is bleeding edge, brand new from Dell, but all these family machines are old. We're just being tight about it, basically. We don't want to buy new computers, and we just want to keep running them into the ground for as long as possible.
I put it to you that you should just put them on Ubuntu.
Or Linux Mint.
GNOME?
We talked about this ages ago, about defaults and everything. Just stick them on plain Ubuntu. And if they moan about the weird GNOME-ishness of it, you can always install like 1 or 2 extensions to make it a bit more like a proper computer.
But the problem is, Joe, there's an even harsher retort I have to that, which is just fuck off, leave me alone, save £600, and when the 12 gigabyte of RAM MacBook Neo comes along, go buy it and go and pester Apple.
Maybe.
I'm getting old, Joe. And also I might be about to take on more work in my job. That means I'm increasingly less likely to want to help these people going forwards.
Well, and also you're not running Ubuntu, right, Chris? So you fall into the same camp as me where you diverge further and further away from that being a thing that you understand day to day and you give a crap about, frankly. And I'm similar to you, Chris, like the want to just go and tell my dad to go and buy a MacBook Neo is pretty high at this point. He wants a Linux machine, but I don't know if I want to support that. I mean, I haven't heard from him at all for the last 10 years of MacBook ownership. It's just he's installed the OS updates and now it's got to the point where some of his apps don't work.
For my mum, I just did that, but with Chrome OS, to be honest. Like her needs are very, very simple. Initially, it was Chromebooks, and now she's running Chrome OS Flex because she doesn't even need Android apps. She never asks me for help because it is literally AB image-based operating system that has very little to go wrong in it and just chugs along. And, you know, we don't need to talk about Ubuntu because we just talked about Ubuntu. I'm just not that keen on running it. Sorry.
I just don't want to be the IT person who has to look after an Ubuntu machine that I don't run day to day. And I don't know what wacky stuff Canonical are doing at this point.
But then you have to be the one upgrading the Fedora machine every 9 months.
Well, that's absolutely why I wouldn't install Fedora on it.
That's the thing. So a lot of people are saying, oh, you know, these Fedora Atomic distros are great because they are like MacBooks and everything. But I started playing around with it and then I was thinking, oh, maybe I could run a private GitHub. But what am I doing? Like, this is making it more complicated for them. And I know that there are variants that you can switch to and stuff, but it's not quite grabbed me. The update cycle, it seems too complicated. So I think I am probably going to put Linux Mint Debian Edition on as a fresh install.
I think you should just do normal Linux Mint, man. Like, I know you say you don't want to be downstream of whatever, but you just want to be able to say, I use Debian, by the way. Like, that's what this boils down to.
I don't think it is, though, is it? Because, yeah, I don't like the upstream, and then you're abstracting it. There's already a gist which is like half a page long of what they have to do to make it to their liking. I wasn't a big fan of the recent keynote. You can tell me I'm wrong or that, you know, it's all in snaps, it's all opt-in, but that is a company running for IPO and like, no, it's really turning me off.
But dealing with that shit is what Linux Mint has been doing for the past 2 decades?
Yeah.
At least a decade and a half.
They deal with it for you. Yeah.
Yeah, from installing codecs out of the box when it used to be a pain in the arse, to not having snaps forced upon you, to hopefully deflecting all this modern AI bollocks. I used to love Mint, and then I fell out of love with it because they did make some mistakes, but I think they've learned from those mistakes. And I could see myself going that route.
And plus, like, if there is a problem where they need to be moving everyone to the Debian edition, well, you'd hope that they'd actually make an upgrader that can do that at that time, because that's going to be all of their users, all of their, you know, donors moving over to the Debian edition all at once.
Yeah, I think they're pretty likely to build some kind of migration tooling that you can just run, or you just do an update and it switches you outright.
I doubt that very much, given the history of them saying just nuke and pave when you do an upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like, it's too risky to, I mean, it's technically, I mean, mate, like, you could write a script to do that probably in an afternoon, but it's too risky. There's too many edge cases. I don't think that they would do that.
That's fair.
Interesting though, isn't it? Because the atomic model isn't there. Sean sent me an email, Sean from Hybrid Cloud Show, with a repository for bootc in Debian. But as I think I've discussed before, like, you are wedging some Fedora tooling in to get that to work at the moment. And the hope is that it becomes a little bit less distro specific. But this is why I'm a bit of a crossroads. And I do have time to mull this over. So everyone can write in and tell me that I just write Nix configs for everyone and I've fixed it. But the difficulty is that that's where we're at, I think, with desktop Linux, right? I think there's quite a few turns I could take right now. And yeah, I'm not going to have to change these machines quite yet because Ubuntu Mate 2404 has another year of support-ish, I think. 3 years from release.
Yeah, and that's just the Mate bits of it. Like, the underlying kernel and everything is going to get 5 years, plus another 5 if you want it.
Yeah, so the first thing I would do is migrate my wife's machine because I'm around all the time. So I can make a decision there and see how that goes before I do anything else. And there's fewer machines now, but the first question I asked is very definitely Fedora Workstation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the atomic stuff, as good as the promise of it all is, I think there's a few too many very small issues with it that you're going to run into and you're going to get frustrated. And yeah, Workstation just makes more sense for someone like you, I think.
If they do what they're planning to do, which is to stop using RPM OS tree and use bootc with ComposeFS, and so you literally still run DNF commands. You don't have to do RPM OS tree install. You're not waiting for layering for transactions. Having played about with it a bit and seen how it's supposed to work, then libvirt broke because loads of directories are missing. But to see how quickly you could build an image and then just switch with the bootc switch command, I can see where it's going. But yeah, I think you're right. I will be more frustrated than empowered if I adopt it right now.
So what are you going to do about the people you have to support, Gary? What do you reckon?
Well, aside from tell them to just go and buy Mac, probably Mint, just stock, I think. I'm going to need to run it myself for a while to re-familiarize myself with that world. But yeah, probably just stock Mint.
What, Cinnamon?
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be a change for certainly my mum, who's been running GNOME Ubuntu stock for a while. But I think that, like you said, it's Ubuntu with all of what we would consider the sharp edges removed. It's got snaps taken out of it. It's got, hopefully, the AI stuff defended off of it. And I sort of have faith that they'll continue to do the quote-unquote right thing with the desktop. So it's got to be worth a try.
My only reservation with Mint is Wayland and how, yeah, they're working towards it, but it's not like GNOME or Plasma where it's a proper first-class citizen. They've had a lot of testing on it. Do you really want to be stuck on X11?
Well, it's a big step back from where my mum currently is, for example, right? Running stock Ubuntu with Wayland. So, yeah, you're right, but it's got to be something that's easy for me to support longer term, and I don't think Fedora is going to be it. I don't want to really go through the motions of upgrading her to 2604 and all of the things that sound like they're going to come down the pipe there. So, I mean, I could just sit this out for another 5 years, right? And just leave her on Ubuntu Pro, but something there will inevitably break because it's not for the desktop.
Yeah, you can do it, but you're right. It's probably not a good idea long term.
Well, I mean, it's done for live patch and stuff predominantly and has been since the day that it became free because she, like any normal computer user, just clicks close when the box comes up that says there's updates. So I want live patch for the kernel stuff and unattended upgrades enabled for the rest of it. But I have this horrible sinking feeling that there is going to be a house of cards. And of course, Mint doesn't resolve the problem that it's something that I've got to support that I would then be less familiar with. But also, it's not an ever-changing environment, right?
True.
To throw that question back at you, Joe, though, what are you feeling if you feel like you'd like to have Wayland? You're using Ubuntu. You said you've tried LMDE a little bit. How are you feeling?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think that I am going to have to make a change. And I think that it looks something like either Plasma or GNOME, ultimately. GNOME with extensions to make it a proper computer, as I said. But Plasma, God bless it, it's just a bit buggy, isn't it? You either end up stuck with old bugs or you get a version that gets regular updates and they just move a bit too quickly for me. There's new features all the time and I don't really want that. GNOME sort of stays relatively static, doesn't it? And I don't know. I feel like if I am going to move away from Xfce, because I have no interest in running their vibe-coded Wayland compositor anytime soon. No thanks. So what am I going to do? Probably GNOME or Plasma. Honestly, probably GNOME. And if I'm going to do that, do I just move to Ubuntu? Maybe. But then I don't really want to use Ubuntu for the reasons that we've talked about loads. I definitely don't want Fedora because I have to upgrade all the time.
That said, the Fedora install on my jump box has been going since about Fedora 37 or 38, and I've just upgraded it every release, and nothing has broken. So I'm pretty comfortable with that upgrade cycle at this point.
Well, I'm still on 2404 on my actual important work machines. I've put 2604 on a lot of laptops, and it's sort of fine, but I don't want to change my recording machine for as long as I possibly can, really, even though there's an annoying bug that I've talked about because of the weird way I set up the sound and everything with my mixer and blah, 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 and interface. That means that I have to mute and unmute before I can hear anything. Like I joined this call and you lot were talking and I forgot to mute and unmute. So I'm just worried, like that's a bug that I know about. What's going to happen if I get on the Fedora train and then upgrade every year or so, 9 months to a year? Am I going to just get little things like that that's new every time?
This machine I'm recording on is running Debian 12. I daren't touch a thing. It's running Debian 12 with Pulse Audio, and it just works the same way every time we record this podcast, and I don't want to have to work out any changes. That's the difficulty.
See, Gary, that's how you do it. You don't do what you do and change it every fucking week.
I mean, I don't change it every week. That's not quite fair.
You change machine most weeks.
That's because I have to travel and stuff. I have to leave the house, Jay. I'm sorry.
I can't fathom it, sorry.
But there is something to be said for your way of doing it, Chris, which is have the recording machine be an appliance that you basically don't touch and you're really conservative with. And then have the computers you actually use running something a bit more modern.
I mean, there is nothing stopping me dual booting the machine, really. The thing is, I do need an internet connection to talk to you and keep in sync. But, it is like a recording studio used to be in the old days of valve amps. Like you just go in, turn the thing on and do the thing. And the only thing that breaks is the hardware side. That's what I want it to be.
Well, I have an M2 MacBook Air that is the machine I use for like actual recording of not this podcast. Like I'll go and multi-track stuff into it and run pro audio and production tools on. And that is running macOS Big Sur, which is about 6 years old, or it might be newer than Big Sur.
Wow.
Whatever OS that M2 MacBook Air shipped with is what it is still running. And I connect it to a VLAN off network at various venues, and it just works. But that's also not the machine that I'm going to use day to day.
It comes back, I know I've mentioned it many times, Joe, but the Fatboy Slim principle, where he just kept recording on the same setup forever as time went on, because he was buying multiple machines from charity shops for like peanuts just in case they broke. And people were saying, come on now, like there's so many different things you could be doing. And he says, yeah, but I don't know them, do I? So I have to learn the changes. And it's not like I'm not selling records, is it? Like with the way that I'm doing it. So leave me alone. The problem he has now, of course, is that I mean, I think he has moved on to a Mac, but if you start running Atari STs, you're talking about leaking capacitors, recapping. And as far as I'm aware, he's not particularly handy with the soldering iron. So, there comes a limit. But in production, you want complete predictability. And that is the long-term support principle. These are frozen issues. Like you said, Joe, you have to do that mute unmute thing. But you know that's going to happen. It's not going to change. So that's what's attractive about it.
Exactly. Well, do let us know what we should all do. If you're a Nix person, maybe don't, because we've heard it before and we're not that interested. But otherwise, show@linuxafterdark.net. Do email us. Tell us what we should all do. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Chris.
I've been Gary.
And I've been May.
See you later.